In 2018, I won Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, Europe's Strongest Man, Iceland's Strongest Man, the World's Strongest Man, and the World's Ultimate Strongman. Last year was good, yeah, for sure.
Adding my fourth Arnold title is, I would have to say, the most important thing to me.
Right now it's feeling good, body's feeling strong and healthy, and that's half of the battle in a lot of ways. So if I can walk in there feeling like this, hit my peak right, it's gonna be really good.
You always got something that's bugging you, you know, hamstrings, back, lats are beat up from Saturday. It's just typical Monday.
This is why we do this day in and day out and train the way we do and make the sacrifices we do is to make those giant lifts on stage.
Deadlift is big this year. Rogue has thrown out a challenge for anybody that can lift over 500 kilos, which is 1,103 pounds roughly.
Rogue is offering $50,000 on it, which is huge.
So I think a lot of guys will focus on the deadlift in the next couple of months.
We'll do about 4 different variations of deadlift between the racks, regular floor. To me, too, the elephant bar is a different animal. It reacts to different weights. You know, so that'll be the thing is, what's it gonna do at 1,100 pounds? You know, I know at 1,000 pounds it changes, you know, from what it is at 900 pounds.
That's awesome. We still got the blood on it from last year. I think it's a good bar to train for the elephant bar deadlift. Obviously, I would love to have one of the elephant bars to duplicate it even closer, but I think it's a good way to train.
It's a huge mark to raise the established record by 60 pounds, but there's a few of us that are crazy enough to go after it.
There's a big prize on it if you can get it, but it's a big risk as well. You know, you could risk putting yourself out of the rest of the show and maybe out for the rest of the year.
There are at least 4 guys going to the Arnold that can pull more than 1,000 pounds. Myself, Hofthor, Jerry Pritchett, and JF Carone. And I think out of those 4, one of us is gonna have the best opportunity to actually lift that weight.
Jerry Pritchett, I believe, if he comes in a good shape and stays injury-free.
Come on, Jerry Pritchett, let's break this world record.
You know, he set the record at 1,031. He lifted that weight really well.
Yes, sir.
He could have more than that in the tank and potentially give a really good run at the 1,100.
And then, of course, Brian Shaw.
The way that I'm training, the way that I'm preparing, mentally getting ready, is to give that my best attempt.
I think those 2 will be my biggest threat.
You know, in the Rogue record breaker 501 kilo deadlift challenge, I think Hofthor, I think he's gonna do well. Obviously, he's coming off a big pull last year where he felt really good, and you know, it was a great lift at 1,041, set the new record with that weight.
Most of us going into this year will be looking at beating Hofthor's record at the 1041 and going 1045, 1050, 1060, but now we're looking 60 pounds past that, which is huge. You wouldn't hear somebody go to a racetrack and say, yeah, you're gonna knock, 5 seconds off the track record tonight, They laugh at you. They tell us, oh, you're going to try to put 60 pounds on the current record, but there's 50 grand on it. Okay, we'll try it.
It's a well-paid event. Guys are going to seriously go for it. It's almost as much as the first place win. So, you know, guys will go for it, you know, for sure.
You know, you're able to make history with this one lift. That's maybe even more important than just winning the prize money.
Like each year at the Arnold, I think Terry Todd started that by raising the mark, you know, every year through the years. You know, whether yoke went from 1,000 pounds and worked his way to over 1,500, or log has worked his way to 450, or whatever it's been, the bar has always been risen. The 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic will definitely be one for the record books.
One of the best qualities you can have as a competitive strongman is to bring your best performance on the day. You know, and so when it matters, you step up and you do stuff that maybe you couldn't do in training. I want my best lift to come on the day in the contest when it matters.
The level of strongman is growing. The guys are getting stronger, but so am I. I honestly believe that I will have a good shot at that record.
How about a round of applause for your newest member of the IBB Pro League, Eric Lisboa. All right, thank you very much, Eric.
The Arnold Sports Festival. For the next 3 days, it will be the focus of the fitness world as fans from around the globe have descended on Columbus, Ohio to watch the best in bodybuilding, weightlifting, arm wrestling, and even fencing. But we are here to answer one big question, and that is, who is the strongest man on earth? Welcome inside the Greater Columbus Convention Center, everybody. I'm Sean Withen alongside Dr. Bill Crawford. The most powerful athletes on the planet are here to compete in 5 unique events over the next 2 days for the right to be called the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic Champion.
The Arnold Strongman Classic is the defining event of the Strongman calendar each year. It's the most prestigious event. It's also the heaviest event. And this is the event that also defines strongman each year.
Every man wants to win this event. There are 10 of them from 8 different countries here today, and they are all chasing the mountain. The man from Iceland, Hafthor Bjornsson, he is your defending champion, and he definitely has what it takes to repeat here again in 2019.
Yes, he's the 2018 Arnold Strongman Classic Champion, the 2018 TWI World Strongest Man Champion, and he also has the elephant bar deadlift record with 1041. And he's here to reclaim his title.
The man who may prevent that is the man from the United States who has finished first or second 7 of the last 8 years here, and that's Brian Shaw.
Yes, Brian is the 4-time world's strongest man. He's also a 3-time Arnold Strongman Classic Champion. He's a consummate professional and always comes prepared.
Those are your 2 favorites, but there is a man here who may be a factor in this competition, and he is someone we got to see compete firsthand in Santa Monica. That's Martins Licis.
Martins is the future of strongman. Martins is the 2018 Arnold Strongman Classic European Champion and also had a very dramatic win at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic Santa Monica.
The athletes are not the only attraction here at the Arnold Strongman Classic. The implements themselves are a big part of the show. Up first, the Rogue Elephant Bar. It was made specifically for our first event, the deadlift.
The deadlift, of all other lifts, is considered to be the best determinant of who is the strongest man. Most all of our events in the past, we've used a specially configured set of Hummer tires, actually, and it's become sort of famous. The bar is almost 14 feet long. It makes even these big men look small. We decided to try something different this year. I said I want a bar that really bends when it's lifted. We're going to use a bar that's like a normal Olympic bar, except a little more than a foot longer on each end.
My name is Amit Jones. I'm the Director of Product Development for Rogue Fitness. Each year, Terry Todd and Steve Slater come to us with new ideas for the competition. Terry came to us and said that it would be really neat to do the same event, but with a long, more conventional bar. So in order to do that, we needed to make a bar with particularly long sleeves in order to get up to the 1,000+ pounds that these guys are going to deadlift at the event. There's quite a bit of research and development, sourcing of materials, finding the right kind of steel. Our normal bars have a loadable area of around 16 inches, whereas these have around 27 inches. That introduces a whole bunch of challenges because there's a whole lot more force on a bar that's 10 feet long versus a normal bar that's 7 feet long. So today we're going to be testing multiple prototypes made from different types of steel at various diameters. We're going to load each bar up to around 1,055 pounds and drop it 50 times. We're expecting the competitors to get up over 1,000 pounds in their deadlift, and we want to make sure that the bar can handle far more than what they're going to throw at it.
We could have used slender steel plates. They don't take nearly up as much space, but it wouldn't look as heavy. It would not allow you to lift quite as much weight. For all these reasons, I said, let's use old style, the old 2-inch wide deep dish plates.
Similar to what was used 30, 40 years ago, we wanted to make something that was really unique, and so we added the silhouette of Arnold onto the plates, similar to what you would get with a cast plate, but instead of casting it, we're machining them from solid chunks of steel.
The plate is a slug. It's about 170 pounds, and after it's done, the finished product, it's within ounces of 45.
Well, for the past 4 weeks, we've been working on 12-hour shifts, 9 to 9. Each of us worked a night shift.
We're lucky to get one done a shift, but we were probably about 3/4 of a plate done.
Proud to be a part of it. You get to see your work in use and everybody else's reaction to it as well. It's pretty phenomenal.
They're about 2 inches wide at the top. They're striking to look at. And we have an image of Arnold himself. Not exactly the Vitruvian Man, but a little bit the same kind of thing. But this new bar that we're using, we're trying to think about what we might call it. It's going to be the Rogue Elephant Bar. That's what it's called. From now on, it will be known as the Rogue Elephant Bar.
These Rogue implements certainly have an artistic quality to them, but if you've ever used a bar like this, it is much different than a barbell that you would find in an everyday gym.
Yes, this barbell is made specifically for the deadlift. It's longer, it's about 9 feet long, and this length also means that there's more flex in the barbell, and that proposes that the strongman can actually lift more weight. But actually also they have to control that flex in the barbell and overcoming that weight in the end with their brute strength.
Hafthor Bjornsson did that last year as he lifted 1,041 pounds to set the record on this deadlift bar. There are 5 men who have lifted more than 1,000 pounds, and 4 of them are here in this field. Brian Shaw, Jerry Pritchett, Jean-Francois Caron, and Hafthor Bjornsson. The deadlift is the opening event, the first of 5 events that will be contested here at the Arnold Strongman Classic. Each athlete will have 3 attempts, and there is a little bit of a chess match that goes into this.
Yes, there is a chess match, but still you have to lift the weights that you select. It's patience off of the floor to control flex. That's the number one thing that you've got to do, because if you pull the bar quickly from the floor and you can't control that flex, then it can get away from you. And the second one, once we get the bar to your knees, is to overcome that weight with just brute strength. It's still about lifting that barbell.
The deadlift certainly does look like a simple movement, and as you just heard Dr. Crawford talk about, it is a very complex movement. A lot of things you have to keep in mind in order to be successful. Let's take a look at the past champions here, and Brian Shaw's name shows up a lot. He has won 3 Arnold Strongman championships, the most recent coming in 2017. Hafthor Bjornsson, who is also here, he won last year, and he is the defending champion, and a lot of money is on the line here in this competition. The first place competitor will win $72,000. Second place takes home $22,000. Then we work our way down to 10th place. And every man here will take home some sort of prize money. And there's also some big money on the line here in this event. We'll talk about that more in just a little bit. But we mentioned Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw at the top of the show. They are definitely favorites, not only in this competition, but also in this event. But there are also 2 other men in the field here who could do very well in this event. One is a little bit of a mystery. The other, though, is a sure thing. The first is Jerry Pritchett. This guy knows how to deadlift.
Yes, Jerry's a prodigious deadlifter. He's got a world record in powerlifting, and he deadlifted 950 at the Santa Monica Arnold Strongman Classic, which showed a lot of potential for a much heavier deadlift. Jerry is an athlete who always comes prepared, but the deadlift is his specialty.
Jerry Pritchett really knows this implement. Now, one man we're keeping an eye on, not because he's proficient with this, but because he has struggled, and that is the youngster, Mateusz Kaliszkowski from Poland.
Mateos is a very dynamic athlete. He does a lot of things that are unbelievable. The stone lift last year was something that shocked the strongman world. But also the athletes that figure out the static events later in their career are the ones that become most successful.
Mateusz Kieliszkowski making his 5th appearance here at the Arnold Strongman Classic. He has never finished better than 3rd. Last year he was 4th and won the stone to shoulder with a world record performance. With the 2 men who will be getting most of the attention here to begin with, talked about them at the top of the show, your defending champion, Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw. They've been here a total of 18 times, won the Arnold Strongman Classic a total of 4. Bjornsson much younger than Shaw at 37 and Hafthor at 30 years old. And Hafthor Bjornsson, like you talked about at the top, Bill, he has really rounded out his game over the recent years.
Yes, he has. He's figured out the static events, that being the deadlift and the overhead press. He was always great with endurance events and also great with power events such as tossing a weight over a bar or anything that had any kind of dynamic component to it. He's a complete strongman now, and that's showing because he sits atop the strongman world.
The 2 will square off in the opening event. It's the first of 5 events that will be contested over the next 2 days, and it is a packed house here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center as these people have gathered to watch some big weight go up and possibly some record-breaking weight to go up. Bill, you've competed. What's it like to lift in front of a crowd like this?
Well, this is the faithful. These are the people that know this sport, and they've come here to watch something. They know what they're looking at. So these are the people that want to see the red meat of strongman, which is going to be the heaviest lifts and the most unbelievable performances, and we have the 10 best athletes to show those off.
And we are starting off with really kind of a home run derby of this competition, and that is the deadlift. And I've heard you talk about it before, that the deadlift is really a lift that if you want to know how strong somebody is, you make them do a deadlift.
Yes, the deadlift is not just an event which shows someone's power. We talk about power all the time, which is force times distance and how fast you can do it. But really what it is, it's how you can just move a weight, being able to overcome a weight completely and however long it takes. And that's what the deadlift defines. Typically it's the strongest man that can actually do the biggest deadlift, but there are some components to it that have to be mastered. And honestly, I always thought about deadlift as an event I had to practice because you have to get these fine balance points. In the Santa Monica show, I was able to talk with Brian Shaw during the event, and we both agreed that you've got to have just that right place to pull the bar. And if you don't get that place, you can either have the bar in front of you or you can pull back a bit too much.
So let's talk about how this event is actually going to go down. They have 3 lifts. Last night, they had to pick their opening lift, and we will go from lightest to heaviest. And this is where the chess match kind of comes in, because you got to know not only what you're capable of, but you got to make sure that you're keeping your opponents in mind while you're picking what you're going to lift.
Yes, so there are several ways this could go down. This could turn into where the athletes just want to sort out the competition. They're going to pick weights that they feel that they're confident with, and they can get to a weight that's close to the record breaker's weight of 1,041 pounds, and then go for the big 1,100 pound or the 500 kilogram lift later. But inside of that, there might be strategies which play themselves out where athletes want to save points, or they actually want to just look at the competition itself and not go after the bigger lift, which would be at the end of this, or could be at the end of this.
The top 3 men, the bottom of that graphic, the top 3 men in this event will qualify for the Rogue Record Breakers. That is not part of the competition as far as points are concerned, but the 3 top men will have a chance to beat the world deadlift record of 1,100 pounds. If they do that, they will win $50,000. If they beat Thor Bjornsson's record last year that was set on the elephant bar of 1,041 pounds, they will win $5,000. So right off the bat here, we are giving away some pretty big prize money, and points are great in this event, but there are some men who are really going to be gunning for that 50 grand here.
Absolutely, and I love how audacious this is, because we're not just looking for an improvement in the world's record, we're actually looking to go up by over 50 pounds, which is unbelievable.
Let's meet the 10 men who will be competing in the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic. Here's Matt Eisman.
My name is Matt Eisman. I'm the host of American Ninja Warrior, and I will be your host over the next 2 days. And I am honored to share the stage with a legend. This man is a two-time USA Olympic weightlifter. He's a WWE Hall of Famer, and most importantly, he won this event the very first time it was held in 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mark Henry!
Well, hello. It's good to see y'all again. Are y'all ready for the strongest men in the world? Okay, come on, guys. I know y'all tired. Y'all been walking around all day. Are you ready for the strongest men in the world? All right, I think they're ready.
What I love about this, Mark, is we have 10 men who are going to fight through 5 events over the next 2 days to crown one champion. 2 events are going to happen on this stage right now. We're going to start off with this one, the Rogue Elephant Bar Deadlift. And Mark, this is going to be a test of wills.
I mean, when I told you it's a test of will, it's not only a test of will, it's a test of conquering fear. You cannot come to this bar thinking I can't do it. It's got to be success and winning the whole time.
And what's special is thanks to one of our major hosts, Rogue Fitness, there is money on the line in this event. Now you break the current record in this event of 1,041 pounds held by Hathor Pearson, you get $5,000 on the spot. But if you can lift 501 kilos, you get $50,000. Now after that, our next event, the Husafell Stone Carry. And this is a strongman essential.
You know that the Husafell Stone, this is a lift that a lot of guys dread to see. I mean, it's an Icelandic lift. Guys got to walk around a sheep pen, and many guys have tried it, many guys have failed. So we'll get to see today who stands up to the competition.
Absolutely. And then tomorrow, we have 2 incredible events, both inspired by the namesake of this event, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. If you haven't seen it, tomorrow, your mind will be blown by our 3rd event, the Wheel of Pain.
Woo. Have y'all seen it? Listen, I'm so glad I'm retired. That one puts fear in me. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys compete.
It's 40 feet tall, 20,000 pounds. After that, they will be tested by the Austrian oak, the log press, which you know, that is a beast of a challenge.
You know what, even if you're in great shape and you do everything right, sometimes the Austrian oak can get the best of it.
Yeah. And then we're going to finish it out on the main stage tomorrow night, and we will crown a champion with the final event, the Stone to Shoulder. And last year, that event, you were there, that was unbelievable seeing it earlier in the competition. I love that we're closing the event out with the Stone to Shoulder.
It was one of the more exciting events that I've ever been a part of. We had our young guy come out and show the old dogs who the real young man was going to be. He showed out.
Well, right now, I think it's time to meet the 10 athletes who are going to be competing, pouring blood, sweat, and tears for your entertainment. Are you ready to meet them? No, Mark. You said this sport thrives on energy. Are you ready to meet your athletes? Then, ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce the 10 athletes who will be vying for the title of 2019 Arnold Sports Classic World's Strongest Man. First up, out of Slovenia, 26 years old, 6 feet tall, 330 pounds, twice Slovenia's strongest man, Matthias Belshak.
And coming to the stage next, you know him. You would like to see him as the Mountain on Game of Thrones, but we call him Hathor. Julius Pearson. last year. Let's see if he can win another one this year.
And following him, out of Canada, a man who was a force in this particular event, 35 years old, 6 feet 2 inches tall, 353 pounds, 7 times Canada's strongest man, Jean-Francois Caron!
And next to the stage, from Estonia, Rono Hainia. This man is one of the better guys that we've seen in years past. Let's hope that he can put on the kind of performance that he put on last year.
I gotta say, looking at these athletes, we have some guys who have some experience in this contest. Some guys who really showed us what's about. And this guy last year was explosive. He was a revelation. 25 years old, 6 feet 5 inches tall, 330 pounds. The Polish powerhouse, Mateusz Kieleszkowski. And it was that stone to shoulder where this guy was a revelation, Mark.
And he was. And next to the stage, Martins Lakers. Martins lives in California now, and he comes from training. His father was a trainer. So we get to see these guys come to the stage and show everybody what true power.
Originally from Latvia, but he's waving the red, white, and blue. I love Lisa's out here. And next up, he won the amateur last year to earn his spot on this stage. He's the youngest athlete out here at 23 years of age. 6 feet 1 inches tall, 302 pounds from Ukraine, Oleksiy Novikov.
You know him, you love him, you've seen him before, but now I need you to see him again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage from the United States of America, Mr. Jerry Pritchard.
And now coming to the stage, one of the greatest strongmen in history. He stands 6 feet 8 inches tall, 420 pounds, his 10th time at the Arnold. Give it up for Brian Shaw!
And to us, we call him Misha, but everybody else knows him as a Siberian force, Mikhail Shilnikov. As you can see, he wears that beret. This man is the equivalent of the Green Beret, a soldier, a man that has stood for his country, and let's give him a round of applause because we love our military.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the 10 athletes who will be vying for the title. Let's give them a round of applause. Right now, we're going to let them head backstage to get warmed up for this first event. And Mark, we mentioned this first event is special. We are kicking things off with the Rogue Elephant Bar Deadlift. Now, the current record in this is 1,042 pounds by Iceland's Hafþór Björnsson. But we have with us a very special guest. I think some of you can see him. He's the man who holds the strongman record for the regular deadlift bar at 500 kilos. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a special guest, Eddie Hall, better known as the Beast. So first of all, Eddie, I gotta say, you hold the mark. They're gonna be going for it in the elephant bar. But when you lifted 500 kilos back in 2016, it looked like it nearly killed you. What was it like moving that amount of weight?
Pulling 500 kilo is something that, honestly, like, I've won the world's strongest man. I have done hundreds of feats of strength, but pulling 500 kilo off the floor was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And as you saw, you know, I basically passed out, got backstage, I lost my sight, I lost my memory. You know, it was a very, very dangerous time. So I can appreciate what it takes to pull this kind of weight off the floor. So if anyone does it today, I will bow down. I was so well done, 100%.
Listen, with a name like The Beast, you would think you would be in one of the WWE rings. You ever thought about making the transition?
I have. I've currently got a couple of TV shows going on. WWE is something I'm considering. I'm just so busy at the minute. It would take a year for me to train to be a wrestler, and I haven't got a year.
Well, you know, you got a lot of fanfare over the last few years, documentaries and different lifts that you've done. What do you think, in your opinion, is the true indicator of strength? Do you think that the deadlift is that lift?
In my opinion, the strongest man on the planet, of course the world's strongest man, he will be classed as the world's strongest man. But in my opinion, the man that can stand up with the most weight from the floor to his hips is the strongest man on the planet. End of story.
Well, I love that. Now, Eddie, we want to make clear, you held the record on a traditional deadlift bar. This is the elephant bar. It's a little different. Can you explain the differences and what that translates to in a lift?
Sure, so the elephant bar is in essence, the weight leaves the floor a little later, so people would think, I mean, you'd think it'd be an easier lift, and I've done this lift, but I think it's one of these lifts you have to train for it for months and months and months to be good at it. And I mean, I pulled this on this bar a couple of years ago, and I found it, it just pulled me forward. I found it harder than a normal bar, but I feel as though if I'd have got a few months training, I think it would have been very similar. But end of the day, it's a deadlift, it's a hell of a bar, it shakes, it pulls you forward. It's going to be really exciting to see what somebody does on this today.
Well, I know if someone can match your mark on this elephant bar, what you did on the traditional bar, they're going to get $50,000. But we were talking about this. This is the first event. There are 5 events. Now, tell us what happened in 2016 when you pulled that record. How did you do in the rest of the competition?
So when I pulled the 500 kilo as part of the Europe's Strongest Man, I had to drop out the competition because it's such a huge feat of strength. It completely destroys your central nervous system. Obviously, it's a huge tax on your back. If anyone were to pull 500 kilo today, I would expect them to drop out the competition. If they carry on, then they're a bigger man than I am, that's for sure.
So Eddie, do you think that if you were to make an attempt that was under the world record, would you take an extra attempt, even if you had it in the bag, because knowing that you have to compete in 3 other events?
It's a really tough one. I mean, to gauge this, in my opinion, you want to be doing this in as least lifts as possible. So I would want to be hitting, I mean, when I did 500, I did 4 lifts. I did 380, 420, 465, and then went for the 500. And I think the 4 lift is the minimum, in my opinion, because you have to gradually warm your body up. You couldn't go from 420 straight to 500. Your body's not ready for it. You're going to end up snapping your back, ripping a hamstring off. So I think a 4 lift is sensible.
So here's the thing, and Mark, you've made this point, and Eddie, I want you to tell every single person who's in here, when you were doing that lift, how important was it to hear the support of the crowd?
Honestly, the crowd made that lift. If it wasn't for the crowd chanting my name and getting the support and wishing me to pull that 500 kilo, it wouldn't have happened. So I empower everyone in this audience right now to show you support for these guys. Big rolls, big claps. Show you support. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
With that being said, I think they're getting ready to lift behind us. We might need to get out of the way.
So why don't we say thank you to the Beast, Eddie Hall! Give it up for that man, and you heard him. Every athlete who's going to be out here is going to be depending on every one of you. They get 3 lifts. They've all submitted their first weight climb. They don't know what the other athletes are going to do. When they come out here, I want you guys to support them. This is interactive. You can determine how these athletes do. So are you ready to see some strong men lifting? I want to hear this side. Are you ready to see some lifting? What about in the middle?
Matt Eisman, Mark Henry, and Eddie Hall getting the crowd fired up, and this is your order for event number 1, the first of 5 events, the Rogue Elephant Bar Deadlift. And we will start things off with Matjaj Belshak, who will open with a lift of 796 pounds, and then every athlete after him will be lifting more weight. Again, we go from the lightest lift to the heaviest lift. Weight will never come off the bar.
Yes, and this is going to be a chess match because all the time they know that they've just got so many attempts that they can pull on the bar. They get 3 attempts. Every attempt matters.
Belshak will open at 796, as will Matjaj Kaliszkowski.
And let us introduce.
And Kaliszkowski is a man who really needs to improve his deadlift. That's what held him back last year. If he can have a decent performance here, he is also a threat to possibly win this whole thing.
Yes, he is. And the deadlift is something that takes time to develop because it takes not only just the ability to get stronger, you have to find that balance inside the bar and be able to get your leverage points. And that takes time.
A legend in his own right as a powerlifter and a
Matjaj
strong man.
Belshak will lead things off first. He has yet to take the stage. That's Magnus Magnuson, the head judge, taking his traditional place in front of the athlete who will be lifting.
Yes, Magnus is 4-time world's strongest man and has done many strength athlete events such as Highland Games as well.
Here's how the events will be scored. There are 10 athletes, so you get 10 points for first, 9 for second. You work your way all the way down to 10th, receives 1 point. The athlete who has the most points after 2 days and 5 events will be the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic Champion. We are set to get things started as the man from Slovenia, Matjaj Belshak, gets set for his first lift, 796 pounds on that Rogue Elephant bar.
Yes, I don't know if he's had a chance to train on a bar that's this flexible. As we said, you've got to pull the bar, be patient from the bottom, pushing your feet down and really getting to where you get to your knees, and then you can pull back on the bar some. But it also wants to pull you forward. That flex actually works to pull you forward. Using the straps. The strap is a very different lift in some ways than the unstrapped deadlift. You're going to see the athlete get his hips down.
Belshak has a minute to make his attempt. 796 pounds, and that will be no problem, and Belshak's first attempt is good.
Plenty of time. He just wants to get an event in, make sure that he's had a chance to feel the bar. Coming off the bottom, you see how the bar does flex. The end of those plates come off last, and that's what gives that flex, and that pulls you forward. He has been dealing with somewhat of a hip issue as well, as we saw in Santa Monica. It looks like it's better. I didn't see any favoring of one side or the other.
Up next, Matjaj Kaliszkowski from Poland. Another man who looks to be the future of strongman, trying to improve on his 4th place finish from last year's Arnold Strongman Classic. He is also opening at 796 pounds.
Applying the straps. There are different types of straps. There's shorter ones, longer ones, but most of the athletes kind of stick with the longer straps. Notice how he just wraps one time so he can get his hands on.
796 for Matjaj Kaliszkowski.
You don't see very many guys use the sumo style. Let him hear it, 800 pounds!
796 looks great for Kaliszkowski as his first lift is successful.
He's got to be relieved that went very smoothly.
Next up, it's the rookie.
He handled the flex very well and pulled past his knees. You notice he's wearing knee bands. Sometimes that can hold you up a little bit as the bar clears your knees. That knurling can actually catch it. But he did a very good job, and you can see he looks much more confident with the deadlift.
That is Alexei Novikov, the man who won the 2018 Arnold Strongman Amateur competition out of the Ukraine, going for 820 pounds.
You You can only imagine what's going through his head. A young athlete gets this chance on this stage with these other athletes. I'm sure that some of these athletes that he sees, like JF that he's talking to there, or Brian Shaw, he's been a fan of, and now he's competing against them.
Novikov was here last year, but he was not on this main stage, and we'll have to see how he handles the crowd here. Now he's talking to one of the officials.
Yes, that's Dion Wessels. Notice how many of the athletes are coming out in sock feet or very, very low shoes. What that does is it decreases the length of how far you have to pull the bar. If you have a higher shoe on, like a running shoe, that's another inch you have to pull. And with these kind of weights.
802 for Alexei Novikov, as he was just confirming his weight with the judge. The athletes had to declare their weight last night. They did have one chance to change it after warm-ups today.
Yes, looks like he's making a fashion statement as he's getting his straps ready there.
802 for Alexei Novikov.
Here we go.
Pardon me, 820. 820 is good for the youngster.
Yes,
and we have gone 3 for 3 so far.
Yes, Novikov looks a little relieved that he got that weight up. Pulling a little bit of shake in that. That means his hamstrings were really struggling to get the bar up his posterior chain of muscles. He also has a very narrow foot stance. And that narrow foot stance means that he's going to have to pull that bar further. That works many times for deadlifts that you see in powerlifting competitions, but in the last several years there have been many of the strongman athletes are now having a wider foot stance, and the straps allow the strongman to sit back more. You see, he started to roll the bar. With a bar with this much flex, that really doesn't help you that much. With a stiffer bar like in powerlifting or a shorter bar, rolling the bar back actually keeps the hips active. It actually makes it sort of a dynamic lift a little bit more off the bottom. And I can tell if you time it correctly, it makes the weight feel a little bit lighter coming off the first 6 inches of the floor.
That is Jean-Francois Caron out of Canada. He's the 2018 Arnold Classic Africa Champion. That's how he qualified this year. And he is stepping up to 904 pounds, so making a big jump from Alexei Novikov's 820.
He's in the 1,000-pound club. Also wearing socks.
And Caron drops 904, maybe grabs his right hamstring there. And gingerly walking back to the bench. So JF Caron talking to Brian Shaw, and it looks like Caron grabbed for his right hamstring after this attempt.
Drops his hip, starts to pull, and immediately stop as soon as the weight cleared the floor. So the end of those plates, as soon as those came off, it looked like it was going to start very well. Something's happened to his hamstring.
We will have to see if that's something that will affect him the rest of the way, but JF Caron right now looking at a 10th place finish in this event.
Unfortunately, if he doesn't, if he's not able to come out, he will get last place points for this. The other piece of this, if he does actually declare another weight, and it's got to be pretty close to that one because you just want to get an attempt in. We call it bombing out if you don't get a valid attempt in.
And he cannot go lighter because again, weight cannot come off the bar. He has to attempt more than his last lift.
Yes, that's a very traditional way to perform any strength competition. Once you put weight on, you can't take it off.
That is Rano Heinla out of Estonia, the 2018 Arnold Classic Australia champion, making his second appearance here at the Arnold Strongman Classic in Columbus, Ohio. Is 8th in 2018, and he will be up next.
Very good deadlifter. I really like his style. As he's setting up, getting the straps on. What you're going to see is he sets his hips very firmly, takes the slack out of the bar, and pushes his feet down into the floor very hard, and gets a very smooth start.
First attempt to Rano Heinla. And that will count. We'll get the weight on the bar for you, but the most important thing for Heinle is that his first attempt is good.
You don't see a lot of guys wearing a mouthpiece. He's one of the guys that do it, they can wear one.
Pushes very quickly, very dynamic lift. He actually used the flex in the bar a little bit differently, and then he actually pushes his feet down, as we talked about, gets the bar to his knees pretty quickly. It didn't look like it pulled him forward. I'll bet he's been practicing with a bar with some flex in it.
Heinle makes his way off.
I was very impressed by his deadlifting at the Arnold Strongman Classic.
We're going to take a second to do some bar maintenance, a little bit of blood on the bar, and as you mentioned, Bill, that knurling that you see, that rough spot opposite of that smooth middle, do a good job of scraping up your legs.
Yes, it does. So deadlift bars are known for that, any bar with flex in it. And what happens is that bar comes off the floor and goes right into your shin. You notice that he actually had the bar an inch or so above, in front of his shin when he started. So when he pulled back, it hits you right in the shin as you're coming up at the bar. That's why really one of the things you want to focus on is being patient at the bottom of this lift with this kind of bar, and trying to get just a little bit more time to push from the bottom.
Here's where we stand so far. We are through 5 athletes, and Ronald Heinle has the heaviest lift at 903, but we are just in the first round, and we still have 5 more athletes to lift.
That's not surprising. Rauno is a very good deadlifter, as we talked about. He placed 3rd in the Deadlift World Championships in 2016.
Here's Martins Lisis with his first attempt. He won the Arnold Classic Europe competition, also won the Arnold Classic USA competition that was held a couple months ago in Santa Monica, right there on the pier. 420 kilos for Lisis. And that is no problem.
Yes, he was very patient. Saw head judge Magnus for Magnuson give the down signal.
It is okay to cheer over here on this
Sitting
side.
way back to pull the bar back. And that's exactly what the straps allow you to do. In a little bit wider foot stance, you can really focus on pulling back. What that does is it allows you to have your shins more upright, allows you to then use your levers to pull back on the bar. One of the major mistakes that people make when they deadlift, if they can't find that spot, they end up getting their shoulders in front of the bar or their knees in front of the bar. And when that happens, it's very difficult to pull back. It's not like a clean where you would need your shoulders in front of the bar, and then you can, or a snatch where you need your shoulders in front of the bar to allow your posterior chain levers to get the bar accelerated. With a deadlift, you want to sit back. Again, this isn't just power, this is strength.
The Siberian Force, Mikhail Shivlikov, is up next. 950 pounds for his first attempt. 431 kilos.
This is quite a start for him. But we've seen in the past, he has a heart of a lion. The winner of the Zhukov medal.
See the effort out of Shivlikov.
No problem for Shivlikov. 950 in the books for him in his opening lift. One more look at that one.
So notice how he dips his hips, and that gives him some dynamic, gives him a little bit of dynamic force. Instead of pulling on, allowing the bar to roll back onto him, with this much flex, you really can't do that. So he puts some dynamic opening movement on it by flexing his hips down. Hafthor does the same thing. I can tell you personally, when you do that, when you sit down on the bar, you can feel your posterior chain, particularly your hamstrings, tighten up just a little bit, and it gives you a little bit of spring. Now we're in opening attempts. So what happens, these guys are very calmly coming out, trying to make sure that they can have a good attempt and then move forward. We'll talk a little bit more about what happens when there's more weight on the bar and what the crowd does for you and what an athlete's mental aspect does for you.
That is Brian Shaw, He has finished first or second here at the Arnold Strongman Classic 7 of the last 8 years. He was second last year to Hafthor Bjornsson. And his opening lift will also be 950 pounds. And this is a man we expect to see in the top 3 and maybe making a run at that 500 kilo record.
He's capable of going high in this event.
Hafthor Bjornsson still awaiting his turn. Shaw getting himself psyched up for his first attempt. 950 pounds on the bar for the crowd favorite here in Columbus.
Brian with that very wide foot placement. He tells me he likes to wear somewhat of a shoe, see a very flat shoe, as the other athletes like to wear socks. But he said for him, he likes to really be able to push out on his feet.
950 pounds for Brian Shaw.
Rattling that bar. Let him hear it, crowd. Give him some support.
And that goes up easily.
Very easily done. So he uses he's applying 2 of those principles. He's actually rolling the bar back. Watch how he rolls the bar back, flexes his hips down, and stands up very, very easily. That was a very commanding lift. He's been practicing on a longer bar. As I said, he always comes prepared.
Brian Shaw with 950 pounds, impressive lift for his first attempt. And now your defending champion, Hafthor Bjornsson, and the record holder in this event at 1,041 pounds. His opening attempt, 5 more pounds than Brian Shaw. He's going to go for 955.
So that's Stefan Solvi Peterson, his coach. Stefan Solvi is a world-class strongman in his own right. Placed as high as 4th at the TWI World's Strongest Man. Hafthor setting up. He's had terrific training. Might have been following that on the internet.
See how he starts first lift.
He also has those very wide foot stances, just like Brian Shaw does.
2 of the taller athletes with similar setups. Hafthor Bjornsson, attempt number 1, 955 pounds. Gravity is not a problem for that man with 955 pounds, and that goes up just like Brian Shaw's opening lift. So now the battle is started between Shaw and Bjornsson. One more look at Bjornsson's opening lift.
They both do the same thing. They roll the bar back. They've commanded that flex. They've been practicing with that bar with a longer bar with flex in it. The other thing too is they do that little hip dip, and that activates their posterior chain. That looked like a formality. That was really a warm-up on stage just to get the feel.
Hafthor Bjornsson, another man we expect to see in that Rogue Record Breakers event immediately following this event. This is the first of 5 events that these men will be competing in over the next 2 days. More weight being added for Jerry Pritchett, who will go after 974 pounds.
Okay, so we're starting to see some of the gamesmanship play itself out. So why 974? So Jerry's really playing inside of having the best placement possible. And it looks like he's going to take a big leap at the end to strike. He wants to get in that top 3 to strike at that 500 kilos, as he is a great deadlifter. We saw him pull 950 at Santa Monica, and it looked easier than his 700-pound pull. I think you might agree with that, Sean.
He looked great in Santa Monica. We had Brian Shaw in the booth while he was lifting. And if you watch Jerry Pritchett, what makes him, I think, so good is that the fact that he looks the same. Regardless of the weight on the bar, he has the same form all the time. This is his opening attempt at 974 pounds.
You guys can help him get this weight up.
Putting his straps on, he too uses a wide foot placement. He pulls a little bit like Andy Bolton. If I would encourage you to look at the Andy Bolton style, where he uses his lever of his hips and his back.
Pritchett right to work, and 974 goes up. Jerry Pritchett is looking to be the third man to possibly get himself into that rogue record breaker segment. You look at this lift, there's a good chance that'll happen.
Yes, a little bit of a hip dip. Doesn't roll the bar back, but notice how he kind of looks down as he starts his pull. And what that allows him to do is just pull back, back, back. And he uses really levers, not necessarily that dynamic hip flexion.
Round one is done. We had 10 athletes go. 9 of them had successful lifts, and Jerry Pritchett had the heaviest lift at 974 pounds, followed by Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, and Mikhail Shivlikov. He and Martins Lisis both lifting 926. Now the athletes will enter their second weights, and again we will go from lightest up to heaviest, and there's a good bet that Jerry Pritchett will be one of the men who is in that heaviest category. More maintenance being done on the bar before we start round 2.
So Sean, just to put this in perspective, the world record for strongman deadlift with the straps in 2011 was set by Zydrunas Savickas around 970. And here comes Jerry Pritchett in an opening attempt and made it look routine. And that would have been the world record just a few years ago in strongman. Jerry actually pulled a world's record in powerlifting a couple of years ago, and it was on his second attempt because he had to rush off and catch a plane because the meet was running late. He didn't even get his third attempt, and he pulled a deadlift world record in powerlifting, which means no strap, a cross-hand pull.
It's Mikhail Shivlikov, who successfully lifted 950 pounds. He was one of 10 men to go in the first round. JF Perron was the only man who didn't have a successful lift, injured himself on this attempt at 904 pounds, and he will be out for the rest of the deadlift event, but we do not know whether or not he will stay in the competition.
A hamstring injury, a hip injury, that's sort of like having a knee injury for a running back or a shoulder injury for a baseball pitcher. That's really hard to overcome because that hip flexion is dependent on those hamstrings.
And that's Jerry Pritchett, the man who is right now, after round 1, your leader at 974 pounds. He beat Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw.
Everybody's
by
been
19
talking
pounds, and then also by 24 pounds, respectively.
Yes, everyone's been talking about Hafthor and Brian's preparation for the deadlift, but really, I don't want to be too emphatic about this. Jerry is right in that hunt.
Jerry Pritchett didn't have the best overall result last year, but he is a great deadlifter. These are your top 2 men from last year, Hafthor Bjornsson on the left and Brian Shaw on the right. Pritchett finished 6th in 2018, but we're starting off with an event that is definitely his strength.
Yes. Now they're starting to get a little more serious. You can see their faces are a little more concentrated. There's a little more concentration in their face. So when you're pulling a heavy deadlift, when you get to the higher weights, there's the way that the deadlift looks and the way that the deadlift feels.
This is Pritchett's opening lift at 974 pounds.
And that looked easy, and it probably felt pretty good for him too. So if you could get your first lift, then that creates a lot of confidence for the athlete. And can affect your subsequent attempts.
This is another look at his first lift, and 974 pounds. I don't think people understand how difficult that is, and Jerry Pritchett makes that look easy.
Yes, notice he uses his hips, but he uses them in a different way. He really uses his hips to keep his low back in that position, and he gets the bar up to his knees, and then his back is in a great position just to pull back his lower back. He keeps a very flat back position, even if he looks down at the initial part of the lift. That's not negotiable. You have to keep that lower back and mid back flat. Some of the more experienced deadlifters will also sort of let their upper shoulders or upper back slump forward a bit, and that's something that requires a lot of practice and a lot of upper back strength. When we get into these heavier weights, we found in the 1980s that there was actually
it is a packed crowd here. at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. This was first come, first served for a lot of the seating, and these people were showing up early in the morning to be able to watch these 10 strongest men in the world vie for the title of Arnold Strongman Classic Champion. This is round 2. Matthews Kalishkovsky opening up with 829 pounds. Great lift for Kalishkovsky.
He seems to be limping just a bit.
One more look. See if we can see where he might run into trouble.
He really had to double hitch that just a little bit. That might have been what got him. So notice how his feet are also closer together. He's also got a more narrow hand stance on the bar as well. I think with his height, he would be better served by having a wider foot stance that would cut down the distance. Also, it would help him use his levers a little bit better. A man of that height has terrific levers.
Mateusz Kalishkovsky's weakness is the deadlift. If he wants to stay alive for one of the top 3 spots, he's got to have a good performance in this event. Top 3 spots overall, that is. Alexei Novikov will be up next. He is the rookie. 840 pounds for Novikov.
It takes some time to develop your man muscles. So these younger athletes are learning that lesson firsthand.
Novikov certainly has the most colorful sock choice of any of the athletes. It helped him with his first attempt at 820, and now 20-pound leap to 840 pounds, his second of 3 lifts.
Just 23 years of age, Novikov. From Ukraine, awesome socks, big lift.
Novikov will get the lift. So 2 for 2 for the youngster from Ukraine.
Also with a very narrow foot stance. And if you'll notice, narrow foot stance, little hip flexion. Look where his thumb is. His thumb is actually, both of his thumbs are in front of the bar. So he's using the strap completely to hold that bar.
2 for 2 for Alexei Novikov. 840 pounds good on his second attempt. Mateusz Belshak will be up next. He hit 796 on his opening attempt, and now he is making the jump to 860 pounds as the bar is loaded.
You do have to admire this apparatus. I mean, this implement, these plates are just beautiful. This is unbelievable. Look at those plates. They've got the wide well dish, just like the old York plates did that were manufactured back in the 40s and 50s when they didn't have bumper plates, so that made a little less shock on the plates. But each and every one is handcrafted with the Austrian oak himself right inside the plate. Those are beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
That's Martins Lisis, who hit 950 pounds on his first attempt. Here's Mateusz Belshak out of Slovenia. 860 pounds.
Mateusz told me he was born strong.
Grew up in a family of cooking enthusiasts. His parents own a restaurant in Slovenia where he sometimes works as an apprentice chef and probably hauls a lot of big objects around that restaurant. That's 860 that goes up easily.
A little bit of hip flex. Very smoothly done. So any kind of hip issue he had previously, it looks like that's been solved. I think he's going to take a big leap because he had 2 very good attempts. He solved a little bit of the problem with the flex in the bar. He's probably going to take a pretty big jump, meaning he's going to look at going up to probably close to 900 pounds.
Rano Heinle from Estonia will be up next, 950 pounds. He was 8th overall last year at the 2018 Arnold Strongman Classic. 6-time Estonia's strongest man.
Yes, Estonia, the home of George Hackenschmidt. Beautiful documentary that was done by Rogue. I'd encourage everyone to look at that. Again, it's pretty amazing that men from countries that have traditions in strength find themselves on the high altar of strength, which is the Arnold Strongman Classic stage. Just as J.F. Caron, he himself also is from Quebec, just like Louis Cyr. So this tradition lives amongst these strongmen that come from countries that have traditional strongmen. Some of the athletes choose the thinner straps, some like the thicker straps.
You saw Rano's right forearm. That is a tattoo that reads, "You want it, then fight for it." Six years ago, he tore his right Achilles tendon. Doctors told him he would just have to recover from it. He had some surgeries. 6 to be exact. Says it's still an injury he feels from time to time, but here he is competing in the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic and trying to deadlift 950 pounds for his second of 3 attempts.
I love the way he solidly locks his hips in before he starts.
Here he is, 951. Put him in a tie for third. That's it.
Rano Heinle hits 950 pounds.
He's very happy. I don't know if that's a personal best for him, but he's very happy with that so far. That sets him up to get a bigger lift. So he's setting his hands. He used a fairly narrow hand and hip placement, foot placement. He gets his feet together. I just love the way, again, how he locks his hips into this lift and really does that lifting style of pushing his feet down and looking down when he starts the lift. Excellent lift. So he's looking down till he gets the bar to his knees, and then he just looks up. And that's a style that many powerlifters use.
Rano Heinle, 950 pounds as we go through 4 athletes here in the second of 3 rounds.
So commanding that flex allows him to pull more weight, because I believe he got just only 900 pounds, but at the Santa Monica show without this longer bar. Cleaning off the bar again, making sure everyone's safe, getting a little bit of blood. And these guys have seen each other's blood before. They compete all the time. They train together. They're together all the time in these competitions.
Here are your top 5 as we are through 4 athletes in the second round. Jerry Pritchett still your leader at 974 pounds. Rano Heinle moves himself into 4th place with that lift of 950. And here's Martins Lisis, his second attempt, 970 pounds, 4 pounds less than Pritchett lifted in round 1.
Put him ahead of Shaw and Thorne.
And 970 is good for the Dragon.
That is a personal best for him. Every point counts, and he's moving himself up.
There are 4 more events after this, so you're indeed correct. Every point counts, and Martins Lisis trying to get as many as he can and does himself a favor with this one.
A lot of hip flexion. Notice how he bounces that bar heavily into his shins, but he's got those knee wraps that cover them to offset that really a violent pullback.
Lisis is certainly one of the more animated athletes in the field. He does not hold back after that lift. And now Mikhail Shivlikov, second attempt for him, 974 pounds. Looking to tie Jerry Pritchett for the lead, but Pritchett has yet to lift in this second round.
His first lift looked really, really good, so this should be a solid lift for him. But again, there's the way the lifts look and then the way the lifts feel. So it's hard to tell what's going through an athlete's head when they're getting into their second and third attempts.
Served in the Russian Navy as a Marine sailor. That's why he Where's that beret? Third overall last year at the 2018 Arnold Strongman Classic and just his second career appearance.
I think one of the things that always jump out about me with this athlete is he really commits himself. He is committed to making this lift.
This lift that tied Jerry Pritchett for the lead at 974 pounds. And Shivlikov with the blood running from his nose. That is common for him. He has that problem a lot. He is okay, but that lift will count. 974 pounds.
Solid off the bottom, controls that flex, gets it to his knees and has to shake it a little bit to get it back. And then the blood coming out of his nose. He did that last year. Like I said, he really commits. That doesn't bother him.
And Kyle Shivlikov making sure that the maintenance crew stays busy. They're cleaning the barbell once again and the floor.
We few, we happy few. We band of brothers. For he who bleeds with me today shall be my brother. And these guys are really close. You can see them on the side talking to each other, saying, you know, good lift, or, you know, maybe do this or that.
Brian Shaw is up next, and we're moving into the 1,000-pound club now. 1,021 pounds on the barbell, just 40 pounds less than Hafthor's top mark that he put up last year of 1,041 pounds. And now things getting serious for Brian Shaw in round two.
Setting up that big wide foot placement.
Shaw locked in and ready to go. 1,021 pounds on the bar. And Brian Shaw stands up 1,021 pounds, and that is a personal best for him on the elephant bar. And here we go, Bill.
Yes, that was just his second attempt, so he's going to put another big attempt in his third attempt in the competition. I don't think he's even thinking about the 500 kilos right now. He's thinking about competition points. Pushes off the floor, gets it to his knees efficiently, pulls back, no wasted movement.
Jerry Pritchett gets to follow that, and Jerry Pritchett is adding weight to the bar, 1,030 pounds for Jerry Pritchett, as Brian Shaw now has one lift remaining. Pritchett came into this round as your leader. His last lift in round number one, 974 pounds, looking to reclaim the lead now, as he is currently behind Brian Shaw.
I believe this will be a personal best for him as well on the elephant bar. So now we're getting into the big prey, locking into these big deadlifts. 1031 is actually his personal best, so not quite his personal best, but this is still just the second attempt.
Here comes Pritchett approaching the elephant bar, 1,030 pounds, and look at all the cameras coming out in the crowd. This is a big moment here early in this competition.
Not using a really long strap.
Getting right to work, and Pritchett comes up limping. So 1,030 does not go up for Jerry Pritchett.
That's unfortunate. A little bit of a pull-up.
Nope. One more look. 1,030 pounds.
There was a lot of shake in the bar at the beginning. I think he just didn't have the spot, so that bar pulled him forward. And I think that's what's happening to the athletes, that he did pull the bar a little bit more quickly than normal. He's usually a little more patient, and that's the issue with this bar, is that you've got to control that shake. The other thing is that you've got to overcome what your body's telling you, which is stop pulling.
Hafthor Bjornsson up next. He has the record on this implement at 1,041 pounds. He is looking to change that with only his second lift. 1,045 pounds on the bar for the mountain. This would be a new world record on the elephant bar.
This is only his second attempt. This shows that he is ready. Getting some Icelandic Viking berserker going. Lowering all inhibitions.
1,045 pounds and a new elephant bar world record at stake right now for the man they call the mountain, Hafthor Bjornsson. In only the second round, he has one lift remaining after this.
Wow.
Give me a break. How easy is that? And a new world record, 1,045 pounds for the mountain. I mean, come on, Bill. That is ridiculous.
That was very, very impressive. That was very, very impressive. I actually am almost speechless by that. He pulled that bar from the bottom, and there was almost no doubt as soon as he started the pull.
I mean, this is a new world record. He beats his mark from last year, and look how easy this is.
Absolutely. He's got that pullback. He dips his hips. Posterior chain's activated. He's looking down, gets it to his knees, pulls back. He's got all those components down.
And he is your new leader, your new world record holder, and we have one round to go. As Bjornsson will get some well-deserved rest as we get set for round 3. Here are your standings. Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw is second. Jerry Pritchett could not get 1,030 pounds, but is still in third place overall. Mikhail Shivlikov and Martins Lisis rounding out the top 5, with Ronald Heinle's lift of 950 pounds good enough for 6th place right now.
Brian's 10:21 looked good, but it wasn't that easy. It didn't appear that easy anyway.
As we expected, the battle between the two favorites starting early, as Brian Shaw is going to try to chase down Hafthor Bjornsson in round number 3. Everybody else is basically going for positioning and points in this event as we get ready for round 3, and Brian Shaw looks on. Let's take one more look at this world record lift.
Takes a long pull back on the bar. Perfect timing. Pulls back. He just got all the components right. That was perfect.
Hafthor Bjornsson is just fired up after that. And the record is the big record. 500 kilos, 1,100 pounds. And given what you have seen so far today, Bill, do you think that record is in danger?
Yes. He told me last year that he was shooting for the 500 kilogram mark, and I said, that's great. But it looks like he set up himself pretty well to at least make a very strong run, and he went ahead in the competition. So now it's going to be interesting to see what Brian does for his next attempt. Does he get just a bit more than this and understands that Hafthor could try to make too big of a jump? Does Hafthor go right after the next big attempt, being the 500 kilograms, or is he playing for the points now? We're waiting for weight selections.
We are through 2 of 3 rounds. This is the opening event of the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic, the first of 5 events that will be contested over the next 2 days. This is the most prestigious and the heaviest strongman event throughout the year, and that man, Brian Shaw, looking to reclaim his title. Last year's 2nd overall to Hafthor Bjornsson.
Brian's favorite saying to people is, you don't always have to be the strongest, but you do have to be the smartest strongman. And he always proves that.
here's what these two athletes have done over their careers. 18 total appearances here at the Arnold Strongman Classic between the two of them. Shaw got started a little bit earlier than Bjornsson. They've won 4 times between the two of them. Shaw older than Bjornsson at 37 years old. But Hafthor last year really established himself as the man to beat, and Brian Shaw really wants to reclaim his title as we are set for round 3, and Maciej Kaliszkowski is up first.
Interestingly, he's put his feet out a little bit.
871 pounds on the bar for Kaliszkowski.
This would be a best lift for him.
Remember, folks, your energy makes that bar move for these athletes. Kaliszkowski.
And Kaliszkowski will get it. Now, although he is not in contention for the win in this event, that has got to be a big confidence builder for this kid.
Absolutely, it's another step forward. It's another step forward. So you got a personal best. He did put his feet out. Look, his feet are just a little bit further than they were previously. He had a good push off the floor, and he had to pitch it back, but it's a good lift.
And he gets some applause on the left of your screen from Brian Shaw, who said he would love to have Kaliszkowski at his gym and help train him in the deadlift.
Yes, and that, again, that shows that there is a brotherhood. This is rarefied air, that these men are trying to be as strong as possible and redefine how strong people can be, really. And in that quest, only strong men understand that.
That's Maciej Belshak looking on as he mentally prepares himself for his third and final lift. Alexei Novikov will be up next, 884 pounds, another very talented youngster, making his first appearance here at the Arnold Strongman Classic. He was your amateur champion last year. That's how he earned his way into this competition.
Going for over 400 kilograms is a must for any strongman. That used to be really a watermark, but now it's just sort of the lift that gets you into the upper echelons of being able to deadlift in strongman. But 400 kilos is a watermark, especially for a 23-year-old athlete.
Novikov using those smelling salts to get himself a little more fired up.
That lowers your inhibitions. And lowering your inhibitions allows your nervous system to cut loose any sort of control that says, stop doing this. It allows you to throw yourself forward into it. Another old trick was to drink a shot of whiskey before a big deadlift.
Hey man, whatever makes that weight go up.
I've seen it
in this
before.
competition, whatever you need to do.
I've seen it before. Brad Cash in 1983.
Alexei Novikov, 884 pounds. Just cannot get it to his knees and then overcome the weight. And he will bow out, but a good opening performance for the rookie, Alexei Novikov. His best lift, 840 pounds. One more look at the failed attempt.
Yes, very narrow foot placement, and with the narrow foot placement, he's got his feet pointing forward. So if he even pointed his toes outward, a lot of great powerlifting deadlifters can have that close foot placement, but they point their toes outward. That allows you to activate your quadriceps more from the bottom. That's actually a pretty good quad exercise to put your heels close together and point your toes out. It's called a duck deadlift. But with your feet straight and your knees pointing forward like that, it just turns into all hamstring and back. He's not using other muscle groups, really more like his quadriceps.
Novikov goes 2 for 3. Maciej Belshak up next, making the jump from 860 to 891 pounds to close out event number 1.
He's a very likable athlete. I'd love to see him get this, closing in on 900 pounds. He knows this is over a 400-kilogram lift. Carefully selected weight because he's looking for point placement. And unlike many of the other athletes, he has been a strongman his entire career athletically.
Here's 891 for Belshak. And that will count. And Maciej Belshak out of Slovenia, a perfect 3 for 3 in the elephant bar deadlift.
Beautiful lift, beautiful lift.
We talked about anything it takes. punching himself in the forehead to get himself fired up.
There we go. That gets his focus going, lowers his inhibitions. He commits, really gets that bar past his knees quickly. I think he had more in the tank, unquestionably.
Rano Heinle will be up next as Belshock takes a break as his event is over. 979 pounds for the man from Estonia.
I mean, again, it's kind of ridiculous that we're a little laissez-faire about the fact that he's pulling close to 1,000 pounds. This is a fantastic deadlift.
And like you mentioned, this was a mark that not very long ago was seen as possibly unreachable.
Yes, it was the world's record just a few years ago. The strongman world's record. Notice he's got those thick wraps on his shins, so he's going to pull that bar pretty strongly against his shins. So he's just using that extra protection. Sometimes that actually causes a little more friction as the knurling of the bar can catch that and slow the bar down. Just like knee wraps sometimes will do the same thing. So some of these things are trade-offs. They feel that extra bit that they get from that particular knee wrap around the shins are helpful. Even if it slows the bar down for them, this is the way that they feel they can get a better lift.
Final lift for Rano Heinle, 979 pounds.
Pounds on that bar. Here we go with Heinle. Let him hear it, folks.
He'll get that solid hip placement and get this lift moving.
Heinle won't get it to go, thanks to crowd. And he will go 2 for 3 in his opening event.
Great effort. He pulls back. He had his knees just in front of the bar when he started the lift. Even though he corrects that and pulls back, the front of his knees are just a little in front of that bar. If he can correct that and get those knees more solidly placed, I think that will help him start to get over to the 1,000-pound club.
Mikhail Shivlikov is up next. Get you the weight once that's confirmed. But he has hit 950 and 974. That means he has one lift remaining, and Martins Licis will be up next because Shivlikov has changed his weight. They do have the option to do that in this final round. They can make one change.
Yes. I really like the sequence of events because lifting natural stones and deadlifting are great complementary exercises. These guys are pulling big deadlifts. They've all been training with carrying slabs and shouldering a stone. That stone lifting has really sent these deadlifts to a higher level. I know training heavier with the deadlift and focusing on them, but I think they're very complementary.
Martins Licis up next, and this is a huge lift for him. 1,001 pounds to try to get himself into that exclusive 1,000-pound group. The man they call the Dragon grew up in Latvia before he moved to California when he was 20 years old.
And it's going to be the Dragon approaching the bar.
Norwegian strongman legend Ode Hagen took Licis under his wing, and he is here as a result of that tutelage. 1,001 pounds, looking to become the 6th man to lift 4 digits.
Just demolished the field, amazing finish in Santa Monica. The Dragon here.
And Licis will not get it to go, and the club stays at 5 members.
Well, gets his hips down, gets the bar started, barely broke it off the ground. Another day, more deadlift training, more time. He's still a very young athlete in terms of top-level competition. And he still has a mark under his belt, which is his best. He did pull over 900 pounds a couple of years ago at the Arnold here, at the Arnold Strongman Classic.
Now Mikhail Shivlikov will come up next. 1,005 pounds for Shivlikov, who's looking to finish inside the top 3 in this opening event and set himself up nicely for the rest of the competition.
Total commitment. He will continue to pull till there's nothing left.
And Shivlikov cannot get 1,005 to go. The Siberian Force thanking the crowd.
That's showing how that mythic 1,000-pound club.
That number has got to get in your head, too. Once you put 4 digits and you know that as a competitor, that's got to get inside your brain a little bit.
He had a good start on that. He didn't overpull the bar. He started a little bit more quickly than he's been. He wasn't as patient on that. But he was trying to get a little more gas going on it. Yes, the Europeans are aware of the 1,000-pound club, even though they mostly work with kilograms, because the big events that happen in the U.S. This will be a record for Brian Shaw with the elephant bar, 1,049 pounds.
Hafthor Bjornsson just set the new mark at 1,045. That was in round 2, and he has yet to lift. So we could trade records here. Brian Shaw looking to set the new world record on the elephant bar, but remember, Hafthor Bjornsson has yet to go.
He's visualizing his lift. He's thinking. He's looking up. He's saying, "Okay, he's got a checklist in his head. I'm certain he's got a checklist in his head." In other words, he says he's going to get his feet in a certain spot, his hands in a certain spot. He's going to feel a leverage point. He's going to push down with his feet, and he's just going to focus on getting that bar to his knees, and then overcoming the weight to the top. And he's checking off in his head what has to happen here.
Brian Shaw looking to jump Hafthor Bjornsson for first place in this event and set a new elephant bar world record in the process.
Yes. He really wants this.
Will we see another record? 1,045 pounds for Brian Shaw.
Getting himself set up. He's had all year to think about last year when he had a chance for the 3rd deadlift to take the lead.
Here we go. And Shaw falling forward over the bar on that attempt. It will not go for him, and that means that Hafthor Bjornsson is the winner of this event with 1 lift remaining.
So
one more look at Brian Shaw as the crowd salutes him.
Everybody's got their phones up, trying to record history. A little bit of flex in the bar. And again, when those leverage points are so hard to find, that bar pulled him forward. Notice he pulled back. As he started to pull back, the bar got caught against his shin. When the bar gets caught against your shin, that can make your hips go forward a little bit. And he fell forward. So,
Hafthor Bjornsson is your next man, and he is going to go for that magic number. 1,100 pounds, 500 kilos is the mark he needs to beat. This is a $50,000 lift that he is getting ready to make. He already has the elephant bar world record. He set that on his last lift at 1,045 pounds. He can set another one with his third and final lift and take home 50 grand in the process.
This is absolutely historic. Absolutely historic. Okay, they're going to go through their ritual to get him mentally ready to start this pull. All this training, all this thinking about it, this goal of lifting over 500 kilograms. Setting the all-time world record, not just the elephant bar deadlift record, but the all-time world record in the deadlift from the ground. So we've eclipsed the 1,000-pound mark. Now we're in the 1,100-pound mark.
Hafthor Bjornsson staring at history, and 1,105 pounds, getting the crowd behind him as he lines up for his third and final attempt. $50,000 on the line here for Hafthor Bjornsson.
For all the marbles, here it is.
At the knees, and Bjornsson cannot get it. Blood coming from his forehead. That's how intense that effort was. He sets the elephant bar deadlift record. He wins the event, but the mountain cannot best the beast. And the record remains in Eddie Hall's possession for the time.
Yes, it does. But what he did get was an important win for points.
There's one more look at what would have been history.
His hips came up just a little more quickly than they have on the other lifts. Patient off the floor, his hips came up a little more quickly.
Hafthor Bjornsson
looks like it struck himself in the forehead to sort of get himself psyched up. And then when he started the lift, he started to bleed a little bit.
Bjornsson wins the event, 1,045 pounds and a new elephant bar world record. Brian Shaw will finish second. Jerry Pritchett, despite the fact that he didn't make a third lift, will tie for third with Mikhail Shivlikov and Martins Lisis rounding out the top five. One record is set, and it was Hafthor Bjornsson, and this was the lift that did it, 1,045 pounds.
Notice how his hip placement was just a little bit lower with that lift.
Hafthor Bjornsson on just his second lift bests the mark that he set last year by 4 pounds and earns 10 points in the process. Brian Shaw will get 9. Pritchett and Shivlikov 7.5 each. That's third and fourth place added together and then split. That's why it's 7.5, and Martins Lisis finishes in fifth. One event down, and one record has already fallen here at the Arnold Strongman Classic, and it belongs to that man, Hafthor Bjornsson. Jerry Pritchett with a strong showing, as Mikhail Shivlikov did well. 4 events remain, though, and the mountain has the lead. Stay with us here. The Husafell Stone Carry, event 2, is up next at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic. 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic continues here at the Greater Columbus Civic Center in Columbus, Ohio. A jam-packed crowd taking in all things fitness. I'm Sean Woodland alongside Dr. Bill Crawford. We are through one event, 4 events remain, just one event remains for this evening. And here is where we stand after the deadlift. That man, Jerry Pritchett, is currently tied for 3rd. He was able to make his opening lift at 974 pounds, but then in round 2, he went for 1,030 pounds and was unable to complete it and sort of hobbled off the stage. He is still in the competition. Brian Shaw takes 2nd place. He made 1,021 pounds on his 2nd lift, and then trying to set a new record at 1,049 pounds, and Brian Shaw just did not have enough. Hafthor Bjornsson set the record in this event last year, and he does it again in 2019. 1,041 pounds in 2018, 1,045 today to win the event. Then he went after the big one, 500 kilos, 1,105 pounds, and Bjornsson almost had it and was that close to $50,000, but does get the event win and earns 10 points. Brian Shaw 1 point back. Jerry Pritchett and Kyle Shilikoff tie for 3rd, so they take the points to 3rd and 4th, add them together, and then split them. And the Dragon, Martinez Lises, rounding out the top 5. The second of 5 events, the Husafell stone carry, and we will be using a replica of one of the most famous strongman implements in the world, and this is a test that has been around, Bill, for hundreds of years.
Yes, the legend of the Husafell stone courses through the veins of every strongman. There are 2 points of success that I want to talk about. One is having an efficient lift off the floor. That means getting your hips down, standing the stone up, getting it up into your lap, and starting the carry. The second thing to look for is breathing. You've got to be able to breathe to supply oxygen to the lungs and to the body so that you can continue the carry.
When this test was first administered, men would carry it around a sheep pen that measured about 101 feet around. We don't have a sheep pen here, obviously, so we will use the stage, and this is the order of the competitors. We go from last to first in the prior event. JF Caron was the only man who did not have a successful lift. He bowed out of the deadlift without lifting any weight. He will start. He will be followed by Alexei Novikov, and then we will end with Hafthor Bjornsson, who finished first in the prior event, but Alexei Novikov will actually be up first.
So this is a natural stone, and natural stones aren't made to be lifted. In other words, they're going to have to read the stone and lift it. Most men that do the Husafell stone carry want to stand the stone up and then swing it up onto their lap and then start the walk. Some might actually just want to reach down and pick it up. So they are allowed some time to look at the stone. This is called reading the stone. A natural stone knows more about how to lift itself than we do. So you have to be able to listen to it. In other words, feel the balance in your hands. Is there an area that feels like there's a little more purchase on it with your fingers?
You've seen the actual Husafell stone. You've written books on this stuff.
I've carried the actual Husafell stone.
This one you said is pretty close.
This is very close. They actually took 3D pictures, and Rogue made a Husafell stone. But importantly, this was a stone that was brought from Iceland and then constructed into the actual replica of the Husafell stone.
They have to go around all of those stones. JF Caron, we showed you him as the man who was going to lead this thing off, as Alexei Novikov is the man to start, but Caron has withdrawn from the competition. So he's done after one event. Novikov has that stone up, and now his attempt will begin.
You want to keep moving your feet. As you move your feet, that's distance. And you only have so much time to carry the stone. It looks like he's rhythmically breathing. You can see in and out, in and out. He's digging his fingers into the stone, slowing down just a little bit.
Impressive so far from the youngster. His attempt ends once he drops it.
Got 2 complete laps. The stone goes down, they'll mark that.
Impressive effort from Alexei Novikov, making his first appearance in the Arnold Strongman Classic. He was your amateur champion in 2018, and you talked about breathing and quick feet, and he did both of those very well on this attempt.
Yes, he did. So see how look at his face. In, out, taking deep breaths. In other words, he's in a rhythmic pattern of breathing. Make sure he fills his lungs with oxygen. And that's very important too with this. Look, the stone is on his chest, and it's hard to do that. Some men will actually turn the stone instead of straight up. They'll actually.
That's an indication of how heavy this thing is. For, and I'd say rather large men, having to harness that thing up and drag it back to the start.
This is an epic event. It's over 400 pounds. Just the lift itself of this stone is a fantastic lift.
And I'm sure these guys appreciate Novikov dropping it so close to the start. They only had to drag it about 10 feet back.
Yes, I think someone's going to probably drop it on the other side at some point.
We are waiting for the official distance on Novikov's attempt.
It's shocking how close that is to the actual Husafell stone. Some men will actually try to turn the stone 90 degrees and lift it a little more widely. And that puts the stone further down and off your chest so that you can breathe. But most actually stand it up because you can get your arms around it just a little bit more easily with that taller stance. Magnus for Magnuson, legendary strongman here, the head judge.
Mateusz Kaliszkowski, he's on the right of your screen in that black rogue shirt. The youngster out of Poland. His worst event is now behind him, and we know what this kid can do with stones.
Yes. Polish athletes are traditionally great with these strength endurance events. Mariusz Pucanowski, I've seen him compete. Also Sebastian Winta, another great strongman from Poland, and they were both very, very good with strength endurance events.
Still waiting on the official distance from Alexei Novikov. Kaliszkowski has 60 seconds to get that thing lifted.
Very efficient lift, as we said, but very high. It's up on his chest.
So Novikov's distance was 211 feet 6 inches as Kaliszkowski gets to work.
Constantly going around and around, that's much harder than straight ahead. When they used it in the World's Strongest Man competition in the early 90s in Iceland, that was a straight ahead take. This is much harder going around and around these turns.
And each lap is 101 feet. That is the same diameter of that original sheet pen that the Husafell stone was carried. And now Kaliszkowski is struggling a bit. Remember, his attempt ends once he drops it. Now it's just trying to get as much distance as he can before that thing slips through his grip and the stone is down.
A little surprising. I thought he probably was going to go a little further, so that really shows the terrific first attempt by Novikov.
And Kaliszkowski taking a second before he stood up and grabbed his groin muscles a little bit, and doesn't look like he's too happy with that attempt.
He gets a great pick on the stone. We call it a pick, but he does put the stone quite high on his chest. These are all things he's going to learn as he goes, as he gets further in his competitive life. He moves his feet quickly, which covers distance, but then that stone's high up on his chest, and it didn't look like he was doing that rhythmic breathing. So his muscles don't get the oxygen. He starts to get lightheaded. You lose your grip, and the whole thing falls apart quickly.
Kaliszkowski, 112 feet 1 inch. Alexei Novikov, we are early. We're only through 2 athletes, but he has the top mark of 211 feet 6 inches, and Matthias Belshak will be the 3rd man to hoist the Husafell stone.
Notice they allow them to have those little towels that have some pine pitch on them, but not tacky. They're not allowing them to tacky up. That would take away from the event. Traditionally, you don't want to use tacky. Terry Todd's vision for this event was to have historic events and do them in the historic way. Just as the natural stone lift that they'll do tomorrow night to the shoulder will not allow tacky to be directly applied, but just the towels that they provide, the officials provide to them.
Once again, he has 60 seconds to lift that thing. If he can't lift it, they don't get to actually make an attempt. So you have to get that stone up and lifted.
Now right now he's struggling. He's struggling because he's got his heels behind the stone. If he had his heels closer to the front of that tip of the stone, it would be a little easier.
And that was the first thing you talked about, efficient lifting. Belshak has it up and will now start his journey around that 101-foot circuit.
So if we can see his face and see if he's actually, looks like he is, he's pushing air in and out of his lungs pretty well. There you go. See him, he's got that rhythmic breathing going. That rhythmic breathing's allowing oxygen to get into his muscles and keep him from getting lightheaded, because that stone's high up on his chest. He's doing a great job, though.
And Belshak now has the stone slipping down to his knees, and that'll do it.
When it starts to fall apart, that's it, because your grip goes. That's another piece of this whole thing. You're digging your fingertips into the stone. It's smooth, and it wasn't made to be lifted. Barbells are made to be lifted. They've got knurling, they're balanced. Now when you throw enough 45-pound plates on it, that really doesn't play out that well. So notice he has the stone right in front of his foot, and then he's able to swing the stone up when he swings it back a little bit. The weight of the stone is over 400 pounds. It's a 186 kilogram stone. Weighs 409 pounds, I believe. The Husafell stone, that's roughly what the Husafell stone weighs. He is breathing rhythmically, but watch, his grip starts to go. He replaces the stone higher up on his chest. But all that pressure on your chest, it's hard to take a deep breath. And your grip starts to go and you get lightheaded and the stone goes down. It happens pretty quickly when it does happen.
Belshak was 2 feet shy, less than 2 feet shy of Kalisz Koski. Belshak 110 feet 8 inches. Alexei Novikov still your leader, 211 feet 6 inches. As now Ronald Heinle will step up to the Husafell stone.
So that young man, Novikov, really put himself in a great position. He was starting the event, and it looked like, well, are we going to see a lot of guys do 2 to 2.5 to 3 laps?
And he was towards the bottom of the pack in that first event, and with just 5 events, you can't afford really to have one bad event, but he has got to start digging himself out of a hole if he wants to really move up the standings here. Now Ronald Heinle starts to read the stone.
He's looking at it. So if you misread the stone, what can happen is you not get the good purchase on the stone. You have an inefficient lift. He just overpowered the stone. Very strong deadlifter. Everybody's going with that style where the stone's really high up. He's locking his fingers into it. So having the stone more straight up and down will actually make it higher up on your chest. And you see he's got really doesn't have his fingers wrapped into the stone. It's more of his wrist. So having to keep his feet moving, he's breathing rhythmically. It appears that he did get past the other 2 athletes.
So Ronald Heinle looking to move into second place as Alexei Novikov will still have the top mark after that attempt, but Heinle like you said, just overpowered this thing and then was able to keep a pretty solid grip for most of his trip.
Yes, he really didn't read the stone that much. He just really reached down and picked it up because he's such a strong man. See, his fingers are really having difficulty. They're sliding backwards. He's trying to get some air into his lungs, but the stone's so high up. He starts to slow down. The grip starts to go.
And he almost did the crew a favor and put it right back in the starting square, so they'll only have to move that thing a couple of feet before the next athlete comes up.
Yes. Now imagine going to Husafell where it's cold, it's outside, and that ground is broken up. It's up and down. It might be snowing. It might be raining. So these guys have a nice rubber mat and an indoor track to run on, so that does give some advantage.
And for people who don't know about this stone, in Iceland, the actual Husafell stone it's akin to a national monument.
Yes, it is. There's actually a monument there now that has an explanation about the stone in Icelandic and in English, and it's illegal to deface or remove the stone from the site. So they know it's a national treasure. And the Icelanders are very proud. Talking to Anders Gudmundsson, to Peter Gudmundsson, also to Helgi Arnason, they're very proud, and Magnus for Magnusson, that this stone is here and this carry is being done in the strongman.
We're waiting on a score update from all the athletes as they make sure everything is being calculated correctly, and that's Martin Lisis. He's the 5th athlete to take on the Husafell stone, and he is off to a very fast start.
Yes, they're all doing it the same way, straight up and down, taking that taller purchase on the stone.
So Lisis with 1 lap down, that's 101 feet.
Good foot movement. Look at his mouth. He's moving air in and out of his lungs. I called that my self-esteem engine when I was carrying stones. Breathing like a train.
And Lisis, and that's been about the mark where most of the athletes have started to see their grip slip, other than Alexei Novikov.
Now notice, very good lift. So watch how he's pulling breath in, pushing breath out. He's not just passively breathing. He's forcing air into his lungs and out of his lungs, into his lungs and out of his lungs. Even though that stone's pressing against his chest. And then the stone starts to slide down. Notice his fingertips. And your whole being is just your fingertips in that stone and trying to go one more step and one more step.
Mikhail Shivlikov is up next, looking to move up the overall leaderboard.
That's just a little bit of pine tar on that towel. It's not pine tar directly applied. Really, it's more of a drying agent. It just gives that smooth stone a little bit of stick to the forearm and somewhat to the hands. I'll be interested to see how he picks this stone. Again, no one's actually turned it sideways, that 90-degree sideways where it's wider. And that keeps the stone further down on your chest, and it actually allows you to breathe instead of having the stone straight up and down.
Shivlikov is up next. We will have all the scores at the end of the event, as it is taking time for them to calculate everything exactly.
There he goes.
Every foot, every inch matters in this event.
He stands the stone up. Very efficient lift. Very nicely done. Locking the fingers. That's another approach.
And Shivlikov is off on his first lap. 101 feet every trip around this track.
Moving his feet quickly. Hopefully he can hang on to his fingers. He is breathing well. He's got 1 lap down. He's slowing.
And the grip goes right there. Shivlikov cannot catch the other men that we saw go before him.
It's just so tempting to want to pick that stone up and lock your fingers.
You would think that that would give him a better grip, but it seemed that his grip failed more quickly than the other athletes.
I would agree, Sean. Now watch, he's Notice how he had it right between his feet, swung the stone back, and it shot right into his lap. Very efficient. Now he locks his fingers, and what that does, it puts the stone even higher up on his chest. And see his hands are starting to slip. He is breathing well, but his feet slow down. The stone's up on his chest. There you go. Now he doesn't have an option once his fingers slip apart. And your fingers will stick to the stone more effectively than they'll stick to each other, unless they're locked. But even that doesn't always play itself out.
Jerry Pritchett will be up next. Currently tied for 3rd place overall with Shivlikov.
I really agree with having to start with the stone flat on the ground. For years they were doing stone carries and different implements where they would start off of a barrel so that the athlete didn't have to actually stand the stone up. Remember the Africa stone that was used in World's Strongest Man? He's going to have a good start to this stone. Right up.
6'4", 370, 37 years of age.
There goes Jerry Pritchett.
And look at the courage of Jerry Pritchett.
This looks like he's breathing too rhythmically. His grip's already starting to slip. He's slowing down. He's swinging out so he can get around that corner. There's so many athletes right in that little pack. He just needs a few more feet to make a lap. I think
Pritchett
that was his goal.
Almost gets there.
That was his goal.
And he is upset at himself, and came up sort of favoring his right leg a little bit, not putting a whole lot of weight on that thing, and they were working on that leg after the deadlift.
What a warrior. But look, straight up and down, swings it back, gets a good lift, very efficient.
And when you have a banged up hamstring in this event, how does that affect you carrying that stone?
Well, it starts to tighten up, and then it starts to affect your lower back, and it wants to fall forward. See, he's falling forward because his hamstring's tight. Plus it's a 400-pound slick slab of stone that he's trying to carry.
Not quite one total lap of 101 feet for Jerry Pritchett.
So I would raise
him holding that right leg aloft and not putting a whole lot of pressure on it.
Looks
and
like
Jerry Pritchett has broken the stage.
Okay.
These men make that Husafell stone look light, but again, it is 400 plus pounds, and he dropped it sharp edge down, and you can see the impact, and it definitely made quite the dent.
Yes. All that focused energy right in one spot. I'm sure they'll come up with a solution. The road crew is always very... They could step over it. They could just continue the event and say, this is just part of what's happening now, but also safety is also a concern. The surface where you carry it in Iceland is not actually a smooth surface either, a completely flat surface either.
We have just 2 athletes remaining as 7 have gone. The field is now down to 9 as J.F. Carone withdrew from the competition after what looked like a hamstring injury in the elephant bar deadlift. And this is where we stand coming into this event with Hafthor Bjornsson locking up those 10 points for the win in event number 1. Brian Shaw in second all by himself, and then Jerry Pritchett and Mikhail Shivlikov splitting the points for 3rd and 4th. They add those points together and they divide by 2. That's how they figure out the 7.5. And really this is no surprise. I know we're through just one event. We're in event number 2. But no surprise that man Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson are on top of the overall leaderboard.
Yes, I would agree. And these are both giant athletes. So an event like this where they have longer arms, they can maybe let the stone ride a little bit lower. They have prolific back strength and leg strength to carry the stone. This is such a fantastic event for a strongman competition. What it is it's primal.
Brian Shaw, who has been at the Arnold Strongman Classic every year since 2010. He has finished first or second 7 of the last 8 years, and he has won this competition 3 times.
A great champion for sure. He also holds the world's record in the largest Atlas stone ever lifted, so he knows a little bit about stone lifting. But this is, again, a natural stone.
Shaw is one of those athletes who didn't start as a strongman. He actually was a basketball player. He attended Black Hills State University on a full basketball scholarship, and during his time there, he said he was hooked on the weights, and that path kind of led him to strongman. Said he has always possessed what he calls brute strength, and that will be on display in this event.
Yes, he's quite good with odd objects. He's just trying to mentally get a place where he can step around that and not actually step on that area of the stage where it's a little bit soft.
Now here's the thing too, Brian Shaw was warmed up ready to go. Then we had a delay. How does that affect these athletes mentally?
It can affect them some. They put a piece of plywood under it to shore up that floor. But he's a professional. He'll just get himself ready and keep moving forward. It's really not something that's in his control to get upset about, so now we'll just focus on what he can actually do to do his best for this event. So going 2 full laps will put him in very good placing. It would make him the leader if he can get all the way around and come some distance down the straightaway here after 2 laps.
Alexei Novikov was the first man out, and so far, unofficially, he carried that thing the farthest. Brian Shaw, the key for him is not necessarily beating Novikov, it's beating the man who's going to come up next, and that's Hafthor Bjornsson.
Very nice pick, and he's actually tall enough to lock his fingers. We'll see if that strategy works. Now, if his fingers come apart, he still has his hands on the stone. He's moving his feet. He's breathing. Look, he's got good breathing pattern, rhythmically breathing, in and out, in and out. He's done a lot of carrying events.
Shaw looking like he's starting to slip a little bit. He'll get through 1 lap and then drop that 400-plus pound stone.
Well, now we understand why the Husafell stone carry is such an epic test of strength. To carry that stone completely around the sheep's pen.
And lost in all this right now is the fact that Alexei Novikov, a rookie, so far has carried this thing the farthest. He was first out.
Yes. Very, very efficient lift for Brian. He locks his fingers, but locking his fingers like that, he does have the option if his fingers slip apart. They slip apart, he can still get his fingers on, the fingertips on the stone. He's looking for his placements. He starts to slide down. Fighting for every point.
Hafthor Bjornsson is the last man remaining. And all he does need to do in order to basically hang on to the overall lead is complete a lap.
Yes, and this is a strategy. Does he go for the event win and put a couple of points ahead, or does he conserve energy and just be 1 more point ahead of Brian? And that's his choice. He'll understand that when he picks it up, if it feels like it's going well, that he can carry it more than 2 laps.
Being that he's from Iceland, does that make this event mean more to him?
Certainly, and he's been to the Husafell Stone and carried it. So this is an event that he would be able to have some insight into. That's for sure.
Here are your official top 3. Alexei Novikov, the youngster from Ukraine, with a carry of 211 feet 6 inches. Ronald Heinle is second, followed by Martins Lisis. Novikov, the worst he can do right now is second place, and that will help move him up the overall standings.
That's fantastic. So the reason they used that Snorri, the farmer, used this at the sheep pen that we always talk about is because he didn't have wood to make a gate for when he sheared his sheep. So he took this slab and put it up against the opening of the sheep's pen. And he started carrying it and lifting it up onto the stone wall, and that was called Sturker. He was strong if he could lift it. You were a half stirker if you could actually lift it up onto the taller part of the wall. Full stirker, full strength if you could pick it up and carry it completely around without putting it down.
Hafthor Bjornsson, the overall leader after the first event, the last man to carry this stone, and trying to beat the rookie's mark, Alexei Novikov, 211 feet, 6 inches.
Give it up. This is the last guy.
Bjornsson mauling that stone to his chest, and he is off on his first lap.
Very quick foot movement, getting some rhythmic breathing going, coming to the first, very long strides.
1 lap down for Bjornsson, and looking like he's going to stay in the overall lead with 3 events remaining. Now can he track down the rookie Alexei Novikov?
Yes, he's vying for that first place finish. He's making a statement. Here he comes all the way around.
This one's going to be close as the stone is down for Hafthor Bjornsson, and one thing is for sure, though, he will be your overall leader after 2 events.
Maintaining national pride. The first time I went to Iceland, a 60-year-old woman at the hotel that I was going to stay in asked me why I was there, and I told her the stone. She didn't ask what stone, and she gave me directions.
They know what the stone means over there.
The stone is the Husafell stone, also known as Kria Headland, which means the pin slab in Icelandic.
And it looks like Hafthor Bjornsson may have edged out Alexei Novikov, but that is unofficial. If that is the case, Bjornsson will go 2 for 2, win both opening events, and have 20 total points heading into the second and final day.
Very effective pick, super efficient. He knows exactly where he needs to put his hands. So not only digging your fingertips in, you're locking it in with your chest. So what you want is a silent upper body and locking it in with your upper body and moving your legs quickly. Keys to success, and that was it.
We are waiting on the final results of this event, but better news for Hafthor Bjornsson is that because of that performance, he has put some significant distance between himself and Brian Shaw on the overall leaderboard. We just don't know how much yet. But Bjornsson looking like he has gone 2 for 2 on day 1 and just edging out the rookie Alexei Novikov, but we are waiting on the official results as Hafthor Bjornsson, who won the Arnold Strongman Classic for the first time in 2018, making a statement on day 1.
Very much so. If you can understand what this means, to pick up this stone and be able to carry it. And here he is, first competition, Husafell stone. He's from the Ukraine, he's not from Iceland. But notice how he got his hands a little bit lower on the stone, and he breathed really rhythmically. He practiced this. He's moving his feet, because every footstep is distance.
Impressive from Alexei Novikov, who will take second place in this event, and even more impressive that the man he finished behind was Hafthor Bjornsson, the defending champion. Huge confidence boost for Alexei Novikov as we wrap up the first day of competition at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic, just one of the many attractions here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center in Columbus, Ohio, as fans from around the globe gather here once a year and basically make this place the epicenter of fitness for a weekend. One more day of competition remains. There are 3 events that can certainly shake up this leaderboard. And I know we're all looking forward to seeing the opening event of day number 2. That will be the Wheel of Pain.
The most unbelievable and epic implement that's ever been made for strongman.
Here are your final results as Hafthor Bjornsson wins his second straight event, beating Alexei Novikov by more than 7 feet. Brian Shaw, who was in second place overall, finishes in 8th, and Jerry Pritchett is in 9th.
That makes a very commanding lead. That's a big shakeup.
Brian Shaw will have his work cut out for him on day number 2 if he wants to catch the mountain. Here are your overall standings now after 2 of 5 events. Hafthor Bjornsson a perfect 20 points. Ronald Heinle and Martins Lisis are closest to him, but they are 7 points back. Brian Shaw goes from first all the way down to 4th, and Pritchett sliding down the leaderboard as well. He goes from tied for 3rd with Mikhail Shivlikov down to 7th. But day number 1 of the Arnold Strongman Classic belongs to Hafthor Bjornsson. He sets a world record in the elephant bar deadlift, 1045. 1,045 pounds for the new world record, and then he wins the Husafell stone carry. Action continues tomorrow here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we open it up with the Wheel of Pain. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. For Dr. Bill Crawford, I'm Sean Woodland, and we will see you on Saturday.